Welcome back. Today we are talking about 14, Temperance, which is actually one of the cards that I had the most difficult time trying to understand during the infancy of my tarot reading. Like to the tune of 2 years. I am kind of ashamed that I didn't read this chapter because it so clearly defines temperance as what I understood it as after that 2 years of struggle. But hey, that's sort of the whole point, right? Is we try and figure them out on our own and create our own interpretations. And when they align, that's a synchronicity. And that's the purview of one, the magician. Anyway, let's get to what Sallie Nichols says, which is that temperance is restoring balance, reconciling the division or the focus of your libido, which we remember as psychic drive or mental energy, with the new situation you find yourself in. And I think that makes a lot of sense for 14 temperance to represent after 13 death, which is basically just big change. If we have taken all of that time to disassemble ourselves and then reassemble it in a way that better matches how we feel and how we want to express ourselves, then like any sort of like major surgery or major life event, you need time to rest, recover, and refocus, because you will have sloughed off pieces that were critical to how you see the world. And so you need to take that time to reconcile your new understanding with your old viewpoint and to adjust there, which I think is a really powerful thing to do, and something that we as a society, especially in America, have essentially just chucked over our shoulder and left in a ditch somewhere, because we are all about moving and moving and moving and producing and producing and producing, and not so much the reflection or taking time to rest and recuperate. So think about that. The first thing that I want to talk about is the second sentence of this chapter, where Sallie Nichols says, the theme of this card connects temperance to Aquarius, the water carrier, and the 11th sign of the Western zodiac, which makes a lot of sense, right? Except everywhere that I have looked, 14 temperance is linked with Sagittarius, which doesn't make any sense to me. And perhaps that's because I put all of my like mystic points into understanding tarot and no other thing. But that shifts my understanding of all of the the zodiac cards, which is actually a quick side tangent. That's an activity that I do when I teach people how to read. Is I have everybody in class find their personality card, their soul card, their year card, and their zodiac card, and sort of think through how they connect to them as a person. And so the way that I usually say that is that you start with Aries as for the Emperor, and then you go all the way through Virgo, just up 1 to 9, the Hermit. And then you go from Libra to Pisces, starting at 11 and ending at 18, because you miss out on 12 and 16. But if we take it in this way, that 14 is the card for Aquarius, then you would start with Gemini as for the Emperor, going through Scorpio as 9, and then starting with Sagittarius as 11, and wrapping around through Taurus at 18, again skipping out on 12 and 16. And I think that's an interesting thing, and something I might do in my next class is have people compare those two cards and see if one feels more aligned with them. Food for thought. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about in this is on page 252, and it's about half a paragraph. At any level of meaning, reconciliation of the opposites is not a matter of logic and reason. Generations of people have struggled to reconcile the search for meaning, which is exemplified in religion, and the search for fact, embodied in science, to no avail. The supposed dichotomy between these two basic urges in people cannot be reconciled through the intellect. Like all opposites, they cannot be resolved by logic. They can only come together at the point of experience. And I wrote an annotation to this, but shout out to all my Tumblr folks out there. I put a TLDR first, which if you don't know means too long, semicolon, didn't read, and is essentially your opportunity to put the tiniest little summary of what your main point, which was usually like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of text. So TLDR, I think science has simply become a new religion for modern society. And if that makes you upset, I totally get it. Your anger is valid. But I want you to come back in like 3 minutes once you feel that the anger has died down. I learned that usually on average, we feel emotions for like a minute and a half, which is fascinating to me. But come back in a moment and think about why that made you angry, and then listen to this. I think about this a lot. For me, the main issue is that empirical science and traditional religion are, at their most fundamental level, viewpoints. Because of their history and their function, they have grown far beyond this in terms of the collective human psyche. But the conflict between the two is something constructed. It is the fault of unwillingness to entertain the ideas found through another's experience. Temperance, the image, shows this sort of like exchange between two vessels, which Sallie Nichols puts in a bunch of different contexts, like having free flow between your conscious and your unconscious, between the internal and the external, and in this idea of religion, the search for meaning, and science, the search for fact, which it sort of leads into what I'm trying to say, which is that I think a lot of people essentially just treat science like a religion, that in the worst way, we think about people who are 100% committed to their faith, believe that they do not need facts, that their faith in things will completely explain the universe to them, which is proven to be an extremely harmful way to think about the universe. But I think it's just as harmful to think that by approaching things through observation and empirical recording and interpretation, that that's going to solve everything in the universe as well. Because there are experiences in all of our lives that we can't quantify, that we can't put into terms of empirical data. And if we choose to not allow space for another interpretation of our own experience, whether that's a different viewpoint from somebody else or from a different field, then we are dooming ourselves to a smaller world, a smaller understanding of who we are. And if we can't take the time to incorporate something else, see if it makes sense for you before you simply dismiss it, then you are not growing and you are not learning. And I think that is why temperance is so powerful. It has become one of the most influential cards to me in the deck. Anyway, I hope this makes sense. Thank you very much for taking the time and listening through, and I will see you in the next one. If you have anything to comment, please do. But please remember to be respectful. We are not here to rage against each other. We are here to learn and grow. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, love you, bye!